as I suggested before, that maybe this doesn't seem right to have Jesus resurrected behind us, but I think it's preliminary to what we're going to celebrate throughout this whole week. And of course, the most sacred 3 days of the church here are what they call the Holy Triduum, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then Sunday follows Saturday, so it's the vigil. The first reading bounces back in time, chronologically, about 700 years before Jesus. And Isaiah is speaking, like many of the prophets. They suffered a lot because they really believed they were called by God to speak God's words to the people, to call them back to holiness. And Isaiah says that his face was buffeted, his back, they beat him and they spit on him. And what he is saying about what is happening to him, that he still trusted in God, this is a preliminary look at what Jesus is going to say himself. And the second reading also is a real connection of the meaning of the cross for us, and all of this preliminary to this. But the gospel today, we have to realize it's told by four different people: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are similar, and John is a lot different. But the two most similar are Matthew and Luke. However, as similar as they are, they tell some very different things, especially around the birth and the death of Jesus. In the birth scene, all of the people in the story are different from one another in Matthew and Luke, except for the persons of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And at the death scene, it's a different mood. In fact, today we got it mixed in musically, because the responsorial psalm today cried out the words of Jesus in Matthew, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And Luke doesn't have Jesus say that. We've all been there, I think, when we've gone through the death of a friend or someone we love, financial crisis, we've lost a job, going through divorce, our children disappoint us gravely, and sometimes that's the way we speak, just like the Jesus of Matthew. My God, why? Why me? Why now? And so it's a very good depiction of Jesus on the cross. Even he was so human in his despairing moment. While still trusting in God, he spoke from his despair and pain. But in Luke, he doesn't say that. In Luke, he says, Father, forgive them all, they know not what they do. And for me, that's when Jesus was most divine. He spoke of God's love in the face of pure hatred and darkness. You know, this week, the school kids, they had a big celebration, a retirement party for me a little early, but there was a game they played that the principal put together, and they asked me several questions, and then on a screen, it's like a TV program they put the question, and then there were 4 answers, and for each of the questions, they invited a different child up from a different class, and if they answered correctly from the 4 choices, my choice, which got then revealed to them, they got a free day of free dress. Oh my God, free dress for Catholic school kids is like, $1 million. So, some of them got the answer, some didn't. But one of the questions that the principal asked me was, what is your favorite Bible verse? I said, what? I mean, the Bible is huge. I said, all of it. I didn't know what to answer. But later on in the week, I'm celebrating Mass, and this often happens. I'll be reading the scripture, the gospel, and then something pops in my head. Now, I don't take drugs, but I guess I might be accused of taking spiritual drugs. And suddenly I get this high. And this, I realized in a moment, I do have a favorite verse. It's actually 2 verses. The one that I say the most often here is, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Because I just think that's Jesus' most divine moment. I think that's extraordinary. The other one is from John. And that's when John in his letter said, God is love. And I believe that was a revolutionary turn from the whole Old Testament. Because God was pretty wrathful in the Old Testament. In the Moses story, sending snakes to bite his people and kill them. Hello? What do they believe about God? But by the time of John, they finally, I think, matured, mostly because of him. Jesus brought them to see how much God loved them, and even loved him on the cross, and even would reveal God's love on the cross. And so all of this is beginning this week, the most holy week of the year. And this Passion of Christ is welcoming us into this story so that the power of the hatred and death on the cross and love, and the power of entombment and resurrection and ascension and feasting all the way till Pentecost and the birth of church is extraordinary. It's the central mystery of our faith. And today we are invited to relish it, to become a part of it.